This is Mark Anthony with Mercury Time Price Analytics with our end of day video for January 3rd. Well, we certainly had a very interesting overnight session with the geopolitical news and a very interesting day today. But before we zoom in, I just want to show you this chart algorithmically in context. Our time price algo went long 32.19 on December 31st, rode this all the way up right into 32.50. Then got short at 32.51 and rode this down to the low 32.40s. And then it went back long again and took this all the way up to the all-time high. And then what we had last night was this hook. And in algorithmic terms, I call them hooks because normally what these things do is they run stops. Comes up here, comes up again, runs those stops, the short stops that are above that. Well, you're at an all-time high. But still, there are a lot of people who try to pick tops and bottoms. So you think of all the people who had stops right up here at 32.60, just like they had at 32.50. Well, then you get this big hook and the geopolitical news, and you get this. Now, our algorithm picks up these things immediately. You've had this move down, and the triggering mechanism is when these white dashes go through the cyan line. And what these represent, this cyan line is not a moving average. It's a graphical representation of our time price momentum algorithm. And you can see how severe the change in slope is. The white dashes are our proprietary volatility dashes. For each bar on the chart, you see two dashes. So notice how the two dashes, as they cross up and through the momentum oscillator, that indicates a long entry. When the white dashes cross down and through the cyan momentum oscillator, it's a short entry. But what's unique about this system is it gets you into the trade at the point where momentum is changing direction, either from down to up to down, or in some cases from sideways consolidation to up, or in some cases down. But what happens is once these white volatility dashes cross over, they merge together and they just look like one line. And then when that crossover occurs, that's when the trade is triggered. When the white volatility dashes cross from under up through the ascending momentum indicator, that's a long. When the white volatility dashes cross down and through a descending momentum line, that's a short. But the whole key is when it gets you in the trade, because algos are built on time. So it gets you in the trade when volatility is contracted, and then as volatility expands, then it propels price upward. And then you get the opposite here. Now, we had this move down from 82.63 all the way down to 32.07. And even when you get a news event like that whips these algos around, your entry is on the first bar when that cross occurs. Well, it's right here. Now, at that point, you had ES trading the beginning of that bar, 32.51. You've already dropped 12 handles. Now, most folks are going to say, well, I'm not going to chase that. Well, that's why algorithms are better traders than us humans. Because if you would have shorted it at the first opportunity that the signal fired, even though it was already a dozen handles off the high, your first opportunity to get in was 32.52, and it proceeded to drop all the way down to 32.07. Now, once this flips around, then when the time and price component is cooked, so to speak, then you get the long entry. The long entry came in right here, just a little bit above 32, about 32.22 to 24, and took this up into today's mid-afternoon high, and it stayed long into the end of the day. We don't act on oscillator entry signals after 3:30, so it doesn't matter that you had a crossover here. You had the move down in Globex, you had the move back up in the day session. Now, how do you profit from this? Well, that's where the secondary part of our system comes in, and that is our algorithmic pivots. And what those do, and let me just close this quick, because when we start these videos, invariably we get notification pop-ups. Email comes in, something on our calendar, so let me just close those. But these horizontal lines are proprietary algorithmic pivots. These are not just laid on the chart as support and resistance lines, but when you move them back, you can see that the algorithm knows exactly where support and resistance lines are. You've got support and resistance here, here, and all the way up. You see where these lines come in. Those are drawn by a mathematical algorithm. The reality is that you or I couldn't put these more accurately on a chart if we did it with a pencil and a ruler. So let's zoom in on this a tad more. So somebody gets in the trade as early as possible around 32.52. These Mercury bands, we had put these out before the 6 o'clock Globex open. So as price comes down here, you're in at 32.52 short. Well, you've got all these pivots right here to take profits at that are, those are about 16 handles below. And then it bounces up and it comes down here again to more pivots. And then it comes down here and stops to the tick. Now, anytime you get a cluster of pivots, and you see a cluster right here and a cluster right in here, well, when these things break, they go. You get a fast move down to this next cluster of pivots. You see this cluster here, it broke right through, and it stopped to the tick. And it stopped to the tick at our live pivot. That was back on December 20th. Now, what the live pivots are is our system has AI in it, so it adapts to time price algorithms during the day. So regardless of what algorithmic pivots that we put out in Globex for the evening, or our dynamic pivots that we put out before the RTH open in the day, we also have 4 time pivots that we put on the chart during the day. And that's anything that says a live pivot. Those are intraday pivots. And so we provide that so that the system has guideposts, places to trade against and take profits against during the day. And just as an example, when we had this move up mid-afternoon, where did it stop? It stopped at the live pivot from the 27th, and the confluence of that and our Mercury band short cycle upper level here, and it pokes the little candle tail above, and then it comes down. Now, because we have multiple sets of pivots on the live chart that we have for subscribers, we've got the continuous ES contract, but we've also got the March contract, because the pivots that are our algorithmic pivots that we run at night, these are very long cycle. Like I said, they go back many days, many weeks. And if you zoom in on this, you know, you see there's in some cases significant space. So we go to our March contract, and here we have more granular pivots. Now, if you just look at this in the broad picture here, you can see how accurate these lines are. Now, can you draw a support line better than that? Or a resistance line better than that? Pick any of these spots where these levels come in, and these are all algorithmically driven. It's amazing how accurately the pivots draw these or identify these support resistance zones. But when we zoom in on this, you can see that we've got all these levels here, and here's the whole point. Notice how you cannot even interpret these. Now, for our live chart, we have this zoomed in quite a bit so you can see these levels. But when our algo ran this morning, and we see here between 32.36 and 32.32, there was literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There were a dozen pivot levels there. There were about 6 pivot levels here. When you get these pivots all bunched up, you're going to get fast moves through that. So here you've got between 32.38 and 32.30, there's about 5 pivot levels. Well, it came down and broke, came back up and broke again. And when you get layers of algorithmic pivots that break, you're going to get these fast moves, okay? The advantage of our system is whether the algo is short or whether it's long, you have all these different price levels that you can take profits. Now, this very thick white line, let me zoom in. This is our proprietary daily bull bear pivot. And for today is at 32.34.66. We put that out about an hour and a half before RTH opens. And, you know, even if you look back at where that pivot comes into play for Globex, I mean, look, you came down, you broke this 32.34. You come back up, you break it on the upside. You come back down, you test it again, you go above it again. That is the single price pivot. That is one pivot to rule them all. If I could borrow very poor mixed metaphor from Lord of the Rings. But that's one price level. If we gave you nothing more than that, you know the single price level that price is going to revolve around all day long. And we do that every day. We give that pivot level to you for ES, for NQ, and we've got a new service coming out where we'll be providing that single daily pivot for stocks like Apple, Amazon, Google. The thing I want to point out is how precise these are now. Up here, 3245-ish, 3240, well, 3245.10 specifically. You have our tick trend warning pivot. Now, as the market has been trending up all throughout December, except for the first couple of days, these trend warning pivots were always below price. Okay, price would come down into them and it would bounce up. Because of this very extended move that we had in Globex and in the early morning pre-market, it bottomed just before 6 a.m. Eastern. When we ran the algos, which are run around 8 o'clock in the morning, these trend warning pivots that used to be below price, now they're up here. So as I mentioned to our subscribers on our Slack channel, this is significant. When this came out in the morning, I said, now you've got these trend warning pivots above price. So what's going to happen? These trend warning pivots that did act as support when they were below the trading range, now they're resistance when price makes this move down. They're above price, and they're going to act as resistance. So let's zoom it in a little more. And by the way, if you haven't been to our website, it is mercurysignals.com. So we get this move up, and this is right where it stops. Now, the other thing I've been mentioning to our subscribers in our Slack channel is you get these price levels that just remagnetize price over and over again. And I've been talking about this 3246.50 level for days. And even when ES was doing this in the morning and doing this going into the lunch hour, I probably half a dozen times at least, I said 3246.50. We've got unfinished business between 3242 and 3246.50. And where's your high tick? 3246 and a quarter. It was destined to go up there. Now, this ties in with what I mentioned a minute ago. Where did it stop? At the tick trend warning pivot that is now above the price, acting as resistance, and where it used to be below price, acting as support. Now, anytime you get multiple pivots, any one of our pivots that we release in the morning or the night before, combined with a live pivot, then that's going to be really difficult to go through on the first shot. I mean, Monday it may plow right through it. But you have our tick trend warning pivot that we put out this morning pre-market at 32.45. And you also had the afternoon live pivot from December 27th, right there at the same price, 32.45.23. And again, because these are algorithmic, the algorithm doesn't know that ES trades in 25 cents. It doesn't know that there's 4 ticks in a handle, so it puts this out to the exact penny. So that's why you get a pivot level of 32.45.23, even though there is no handle or fractional handle at 23. And here you have 32.45.10, even though there is no fractional handle at 32.45.10. So that's how precise these are to the penny. Now, what this gave us an opportunity to do is put a short on right here. We put a 3 lot on. We trade in threes. And so that allows you to, once the trade starts going in your direction, you can take off the first third of that position, move your stop to even. And in this particular trade, we took 5 on the first third, 11 on the middle, and 6, I believe it was 5 or 6 on that last third. No, I'm sorry, it was only about 3 on the last third because we got this bounce up here. But I mean, that was a 20 handle trade just in the late part of the afternoon, just based on our pivots alone, aside from the fact that we had this beautiful top in the algo. And after we get the bottom, see, you don't have to pick tops and bottoms with an algorithm because the time component indicates when the time is right to get in. It's not going to go long down here. It can't, because the time component has to set up. And so it's a time price algorithm. Now, when you get something like this at the top, yeah, it shorted it immediately. But you're not going to short this up here and have the algo bottom tick this thing. It takes time for the time price mechanism to oscillate around and begin moving back up. Now, for NQ traders out there, we call this planet NQ because NQ lives on its own planet, does its own thing regardless of anything else that ES may be doing on that particular day. The algorithm for NQ is ridiculous. Number one, you can see the live pivots. I mean, is that accurate enough? That's not to the tick, that's to the penny. This was to within a couple pennies. But if we pull this chart out just a little bit, the algorithm was long from, what is that, Tuesday at right around 87.20. There was the crossover right there, 87.20. And notice it did not get out of this trade. At no time did these little white volatility hashes ever cross back through. And what it'll do is you'll get this leg up, and then it'll consolidate, and then a leg up, and then it'll consolidate. But in no time in this whole move from 87.20 to 8,900, 180 handles on NQ, 20 bucks a handle, do the math. At no time did our algo get out of that. So if you're an NQ trader, and I'll tell you, if you're an NQ trader, boy, talk about grabbing a tiger by the tail. You make one mistake on NQ and it'll sting. And by the way, if you're trading NQ, you need to put stops in as soon as you put the trade in, not after you put the trade in. Now, don't enter a trade and put stops in on NQ because you might get slipped 10 handles, and that's 200 bucks on a one lot. You need to put, if you're trading NQ, you need to use the DOM in your trading platform and put the stop in at the same time. And we recommend never risking more than 4 handles on an NQ trade, ever. It's just not worth it. So system algorithm long 87.20, it's long all the way up to 89.07, and then it flips and you get this move down. The crossover was on this bar. So if you had gotten short, if you were in front of your computer and you got short as early as possible, you're talking 88.70, and you get a move down 130 handles. Now, again, the oscillator didn't flip long until later in the afternoon. But the point is, that's why we give you these algorithmic pivots, because if you had gotten short at that 88.70, you could have taken profits at 88.44, 88.30, all of these pivots all the way down. I mean, there were, what, a dozen at least opportunities to take profits throughout the trade, and that's why you trade in thirds. And if we zoom this in a little bit more, and just the way NQ trades, these algorithmic pivot levels are always bunched up like this. So there are particular ones that that we call out in our Slack channel. For example, here's your bull bear pivot, 88.20. So you get this move down, and you get this move up through the bull bear pivot, and it comes down and it tests the bull bear pivot, and then you get this move up another 50 some odd handles before we hit a little pullback at the end of the day. So the combination of our automated time price algo and these proprietary pivot levels, these horizontal lines, you know, we make it as easy as possible, anxiety-free, extremely precise. If you'd like more information, go to our website, mercurysignals.com. This video is being recorded on Friday evening, January 3rd. We've got our next free algorithmic trading webinar on Sunday the 5th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you want to register for that free webinar, just go to mercurysignals.com, click on the webinar item in the top menu, and it will give you your reservation. You do have to have a reservation for that. There is no charge. mercurysignals.com, and please click the webinar link. We'd love to see you there on Sunday. So that is it for today. We thank you so much for your time. God bless you. God bless your family. And we'll see you again soon.